You know how it is. You feel a little off, you see a post about some miracle cure, or you just have a question about a supplement. What's the first thing you do? Yep, pull out your phone. But how do you tell what's good advice and what's, well, genuinely harmful? Today, we're going to build a toolkit to help you cut through all that noise and find the truth.
I mean, we've all done it, right? A weird ache, a sudden rash, and bam, seconds later, you're deep diving into an absolute avalanche of information. But in that huge flood of articles and videos, how do you even begin to figure out who's credible and who's just trying to sell you something? Or even worse, is just dangerously wrong?
And that leads us to this really weird paradox of our time: information overload. We have more knowledge at our fingertips than any other generation in history, which is amazing. But all that access also creates this thick fog that makes it so much harder to tell what's real and what's not. On one hand, this is incredible. You can research conditions, find people going through the same thing, and really become a partner in your own healthcare. It puts you in the driver's seat. But that exact same ease of access is also what makes everything so tricky. Because for every single well-researched medical article from a top-notch institution, there's some unverified claim from a wellness blogger lurking right beside it in your search results. The internet just doesn't have a built-in quality control filter. It means the good, the bad, and the truly awful are all sitting right there next to each other on the same digital shelf. Now, this whole problem isn't spread out evenly across the web. Oh no, it has a ground zero, an environment that feels almost perfectly designed for bad information to not just survive, but to actually thrive. And you know what I'm talking about: social media. And hey, that's not just my opinion. A big 2024 report from the International Panel on the Information Environment, or IPIE, put it bluntly. They said the biggest threat isn't just that false information exists, but it's the very design of the platforms that are built to spread it like wildfire. So here's the real issue. A lot of these platforms are built for one thing: engagement. Content that gets a big emotional reaction, fear, anger, even extreme hope. It gets more clicks, more shares, more comments. And what does the algorithm do? It pushes that content out to more and more people, whether it's true or not. So what happens? The crazy, outrageous claims often travel way farther and way faster than the boring, verified facts. Okay, so if we're going to get a handle on this, we first have to understand the different kinds of bad information that are out there. Because believe me, there's a huge difference between an honest mistake and a deliberate lie. And learning to spot that difference is absolutely key. First up, let's talk about misinformation. The easiest way to think about this is as an honest mistake. Your aunt reads something about a new superfood, gets a key detail wrong, and shares it in the family group chat because she genuinely wants to help. Her heart's in the right place. But the info she's passing along, it's just not accurate. But then we've got its much more sinister cousin: disinformation. This isn't a mistake. This is a deliberate, calculated lie. It's content that is purposefully made to be false or misleading. The goal here isn't to help anyone. It's to manipulate you, to sell you a useless product, to make you distrust real experts, or to push some kind of hidden agenda. So let's just boil it all the way down. Misinformation is an error, an oops. Disinformation is deception. It's a trap. One comes from confusion, the other comes from malice. Just understanding the intent behind what you're seeing is a huge first step. And when you lay it out like this, side by side, it becomes super clear, right? Look at the intent. One's an accident, the other is totally on purpose. Then the origin. One comes from just not understanding something, right? The other is designed to manipulate you from the start. And finally, the goal. Misinformation doesn't really have one, but disinformation, it's always serving some kind of hidden agenda. Okay, so understanding the threat is step one. Check. But now for the really important part. What can we actually do about it? How do we build up our defenses? Well, it's time to put together your critical toolkit. Look, the most powerful tool you've got isn't some memorized list of good and bad websites. It's actually a shift in your mindset. It's about going from being a passive scroller to an active, critical thinker. And that whole new habit starts just by asking a few simple but really powerful questions. First, when you see something go viral, just stop and ask yourself why. Why this post? See, false information often spreads because it hijacks our emotions. That headline promising a secret cure for something awful, that's tapping into our hope. A story about a toxic food you eat every day, that's playing on our fear. Just recognizing those emotional triggers is the first step to disarming them. Okay, next, Put on your detective hat for a second and look for clues. Is it easy to find out who wrote this and what their credentials are? If not, that's a big red flag. Does the article tell you where it got its information? A real source will link out to actual studies or expert groups, not just other sketchy websites. And is the language all hypey and extreme? Real science is careful. Be really suspicious of anything that sounds way too good or way too scary to be true. And finally, we've got the toughest question, but it might be the most important one. What are my own biases? We are all, every single one of us, wired to prefer information that confirms what we already think. It's a real thing called confirmation bias. So you have to ask yourself, do I just want this to be true, or does this fit perfectly with how I already see the world? Being honest with ourselves about our own mental shortcuts is one of the best defenses we have. So, I'll just leave you with this thought. The next time a piece of health advice stops you in your tracks, just pause. Take a breath before you hit that share button, even before you let yourself believe it. And take a second to ask yourself, am I just scrolling and consuming this, or am I really thinking about where it's from, who it's for, and why it was even created? Seriously, when it comes to your own well-being, that one little question can make all the difference in the world.